Hello, everybody. This is Aaron from CarNewsCafe.com, and today I'm with Nicholas. We are going to be talking about something to do with electric vehicles, probably Teslas. Am I right?
That's right. Hello, everyone. This is Nicholas, and yes, indeed, today we're going to talk a little bit about, guess what, electric vehicles. Not only that, but guess what, Tesla. But not only that, we're going to talk a little bit more about the aftermath of the dual motor Model S event, and also what was interesting about that event, the public's reaction, the anticipation, and finally the overall effect of the event. But in the meantime, I'll let Aaron go ahead.
Well, to kind of give, I guess, a synopsis of what it was that Tesla announced, it's about 2 weeks ago. Um, what they showed was a new version of the Model S. They're calling the D. So you buy a Model S 85, then you buy an 85D. That would be this model, and it basically added three major things to the car. The first thing it did was it added a second propulsion motor, which I believe is actually a third motor on the Tesla because I think it already had two
No, it's
running in
actually
tandem.
no, it's actually two. What they did is they downsized they took away the bigger electric motor in the back and they put two smaller ones, one on the back, one on the front.
Okay, so now it's an all-wheel drive car. That was the first thing they did, which honestly I think they should have done a long time ago. But so now you have all-wheel drive. The next thing they added was a little bit of battery management, which boosted the car around 10 miles in range. And then the third thing that they added was a bunch of automated driving stuff. Um, some of it's very innovative, some of it is kind of glorified cruise control, and a lot of it is this will be out soon kind of stuff, software updates that they have to do down the line. Um, anyway, that to me, out of the three things that they added to the car, the automated driving was the coolest thing. But really, all of that, in my opinion, all of that was not really worthy of a huge event and a lot of hubbub. Although we do have to take into account that this is Tesla, and so everything Tesla does, even if it's Elon Musk uh, traveled to Europe to say hi to his sister's brother's cousin. They have to make a big deal out of it. But anyway, I think a lot of the stuff that's on the car, especially that all-wheel drive capability, that was a given, and it was stuff that probably should have already happened by now. Um, the Model S is competing in a market where, if you can compare it to gasoline and hybrid vehicles, it's competing in a price point market where all-wheel drive is almost the standard now. Um, on Also, to go with that, all-wheel drive would boost the usability of the car for a lot of users, a lot of people. Out here where I live, you'll almost never see a Model S that's not just passing through. And most people want two things out of a car. You need to have some sort of ground clearance, not a lot, but some, and you need all-wheel drive. Rear-wheel drive will not cut the mustard here. So the only time you see rear-wheel drive here is either if it's a pickup truck or a very old car. So that was kind of an obvious evolution, but I think that Tesla kind of overhyped and missed the point because I think they should have hyped the autonomous driving stuff. I think that's fine. That's good because that's great
Yeah,
technology. But I
that's
really think that they should have been aiming in a slightly different direction because I think even the hardcore Tesla fan is getting a little tired of the overhype and overplay of things that really aren't that important to the actual sales of the car. What do you think, Nicholas? You were actually there, so you would have a little more perspective on what people were talking about and how they felt about the event.
Yeah, I think you actually hit it on the nail pretty well. My reaction to the event was it was extremely big, much bigger than the swappable battery event and other events. And also, if you think about it, it's just a logical evolution of the Model S. Not only that, but if you think about it, it's the Model X's platform on a Model S. You know, the Model X will have four-wheel drive. So this was nothing more than a test bed for the Model X put on the Model S. So all of that, I think, was great. But you're right. The point you make is extremely right. They insisted a lot on the 691 horsepower, which, I mean, if you think about it, when do you ever hear EV makers insisting on horsepower more than a foot-pound torque, right?
Mhm.
So
Right.
that was the first giveaway. The other giveaway was indeed they should have concentrated a little bit more on the Elon Musk does not call it autonomous driving. He calls it autopilot, and rightfully so. He said it's 80% of autonomous driving, so meaning that they are really close to delivering a car that's fully autonomous. And I think this was really the big news. But strangely enough, when Elon Musk was talking, that pretty was 80% of his talk in front of the stage was about the autopilot part. So that was really well done.
Okay.
But I think what people really walked away with was, wow, Model S, four-wheel drive, 691 horsepower, and that was the thing. Which then after that, it made me think, this is pretty interesting because now we're having two sorts of Tesla ratties out there, right? The Tesla fans who really love the technology, can't have enough of it, and then those who are just goo goo gaga over anything Tesla does. And then I started asking people before even Elon got on stage, before we even knew what it was. And of course, it wasn't a big secret. We knew exactly what it was. Actually, I believe Autoblog goofed and sent out the press release a little bit before, or published the article before, and that really ticked off Elon Musk a lot, giving the performance of the specs of the car, right? So
Hmm.
what I gathered was very interesting. You had this sort of two different types of Tesla fans out there. Those who were just whatever he says is going to be fine, and then you had the more learned Tesla guys, the ones who were saying, well, obviously it's going to be a Tesla. At the time we called it a Model D. Now it's a Model S. So by the way, it can be either a 60D, an 85D,
Hmm.
or a P85D. So you can get it in four-wheel drive, though, any of them. So that's good news. But most of them were saying, I really hope we're going to hear more about either the X or the Generation 3 or something else. A lot of
Hmm.
people were expecting something much more than just the Model D, which was really interesting. Um, I think Musk made some interesting jokes, and something that wasn't really covered very well was that he had a Velcro zipper. So think about it. He knows exactly who he is. He knows how the media hangs on to everything he does. And so that was a bit of a wink, and I thought it was really funny. So he's making fun of it. And if you look back in history, Musk has always been pretty forward about the overhyping of Tesla, and none
Hmm.
is more evident that on Seeking Alpha. When you listen to the overappreciation of the stock, even Musk says it's crazy, guys. Chill out. It's overvalued. So it's very interesting. He's sort of like a surfer, and he's really riding that wave, and he's trying to keep it cool. But it's a behemoth of a monster. So I thought it was interesting that you had on the one hand this population who was really expecting more and wanting more, and on the other hand
Hmm.
you had a lot of the who's who of course of the Los Angeles scene, and they were just happy. They were just happy being there. It was free
Right.
food and all that kind of stuff and everything.
Well,
So
yeah, it's like a rock concert.
and okay, thank you. That's exactly it. It was a raw concert. So I wrote something very quickly on Electric Nick. I didn't want to add to all the articles written about the introduction of the Model D or the P the 60D or 85D or P85D. By the way, it's really hard to say. Huh? Yeah, I think technically on the site Tesla calls it the dual motor Model S, which I kind of like, by the way.
Yeah.
But I still think Model D is fine. What's wrong with Model D? Or Model DM, maybe we should even call it. Anyway,
Well, honestly, I think they should just call it AWD. They should just say it's the model whatever AWD. But
Yeah, yeah, make it
that's
a whole new model because that car. So there were a few things that I think the press sort of missed or just included it as an afterthought. But there are some things that Tesla did damn well with that Model D. And the fact that it is only $4,000 more than the base current model. Now, that
yeah,
tip my hat to you. That's really, really good. They also said that most of the autopilot technology that you get with the dual motor Model S, that's a mouthful. I'm going to call it Model D. It's ridiculous. Um, you can actually get it with the cars that have shipped out the last few months. I'm thinking here off the top of my head, it was the last 4 months, so they're all more or less enabled. That means a flip of an upgrade, and you'll have most of that stuff. Um, what really surprised me is, and I'll be very straightforward. I'm a Roadster guy. I love the Roadster. We don't have kids, so for me, a Model S is a great car, but it's just not really that interesting to me. However, the Model D was the car, the Model S I would actually want to have. For a few reasons. When we did our test ride in it, the driver jokingly said, and not even jokingly, he actually very seriously said, "I hope you don't have any drinks in here." And we had just snatched my beer, so that was fine. Um, I was joking. I said, "Why?" And so we were four people in that car, and the acceleration was astonishing. I mean, as good as one of those thrill rides in an amusement park. And not only that, but after that, the really good part was the actual autopilot part. And like we talked about it, Musk said something that was pretty interesting. Not only is it 80% close to autonomous driving, but this system that they have is sort of like voice recognition, but visual recognition of real life obstacles. So it not only sees cars, it sees dogs, it sees people. It recognizes the street speed limit and it adapts accordingly. So the it was very simple. The car saw where the lines were on the street, right? And it saw the speed limit, and so it adapted to that. It was 25 miles at first, and it was sort of curving along 25 miles an hour. And then it sees 30 miles an hour, and so it sped up, or the other way around. I can't remember right now. But after that, there were two lanes, right? So the driver just put the blinker to turn left, and the car looks around, sees there's no danger, and then just turns. And then, of course, in front of it, there was another car stopped, so it just stopped. And that was the good part that I really liked. And strangely enough, Musk did talk about it a lot, but it just wasn't picked up by the press nearly as much. Musk was joking about now you can go to a party, you can go to a big restaurant, park your car wherever the heck you want to, and then forget about it. Meaning, you get out of the car, you get out of the restaurant after you've eaten whatever, you click on your little remote, and guess who comes along? Your Model D. Your dual
yeah.
motor comes in.
So
Isn't that great?
yeah, Nissan has been working on something very similar to that,
Absolutely.
Auto
Nissan, I
Valet or
mean,
something like that. And Audi, of
absolutely.
course, is working on the same idea. In fact, they're putting a car, a fully automated robotic car, on a racetrack
Yes.
this week.
Yeah.
But
But here,
what I wanted to kind of I don't know, interrupt with, I guess, or point out is a couple of things. First off, I've always been a big fan of Elon Musk since he was starting PayPal, since way back. Um, when I was a real computer science geek, he was one of my heroes because this guy was a dude that came out of nowhere and came up with something that was so awesome that it literally revolutionized the internet. And it was one of those enabling technologies. Those are always the best kind. The ones that make it so that Joe Nobody can do something that beforehand only the big companies could do. And that's what PayPal did. It facilitated that for a lot of us. Um, but the other thing I wanted to say was, you're talking about the Model D, and you're talking about the autonomous driving and stuff. I also found it interesting that the press was not picking up on that, because it's a big technology, but it's also way out in left field for Tesla, because up to this point, Tesla has not had any active safety on their car. The Model
right.
S hasn't had blind spot, hasn't had none of that stuff. Um,
So
and a lot of an active safety, especially. It hasn't had, automatic braking, that kind of thing. And I have actually read articles calling it out on that. Um,
And that's
and the
that's
counterpoint has always been, well, they have the highest safety rating possible, blah blah
yeah,
blah.
but
But
that's a
it's very interesting that they have not had any of that, and now all of a sudden they're incorporating that sort of thing into a system
yeah,
that does a lot of other stuff as well, but is basically based on having those things built into the car, whereas
right.
before they weren't even there. So it's I don't know why they didn't include it, other than they
Well,
probably didn't want to pay the patent fees to put those sorts of things on, because almost all of that is owned by somebody. Um,
yeah, and so actually, you know what? Those are really two great points you're making, and I think you have to always keep in mind Apple, and this will make sense. In a little while, we'll talk about why this makes even more sense. But Tesla is sort of like the unrecognized hero, the technological hero, and you made a great point. Musk is a technology hero. Um, we hear a lot about Google when it comes to autonomous driving, and well, Google only has a little car that they're playing with. Audi is out there, big PR marketing money behind. Same thing with Nissan, and they are making headway. They're making great work. But here is Tesla, who all of a sudden, you're right, has a Model S with very little, passive security basically, and all of a sudden comes out with a car that's almost fully automated. So it shows again how very much like Apple, the Apple trails on a lot of things, but all of a sudden they'll come up with their new line, and it's like, wow, they just juggernauted, juggernauted. Yeah, that's a good word. Juggernauted the whole industry, and that's exactly what Tesla does.
Sounds like it's ready to be a rock song. Juggernaut.
Are you a juggernaut? I'm juggernauting. So, but that's exactly that's exactly Tesla, and I think that's the beautiful part about Tesla, and that's why Tesla now attracts these people who are Google guys over Tesla, and at the same time these technology guys who are much harder to please because they also know what they want. So you make
Right.
great points right there. The media right now is focusing on Google, Audi, Nissan, and who else is working on autonomous driving? I think BMW or somebody like that. Anyway, but Tesla is the one who came in and said,
Honestly,
well,
it's
look,
almost
guys,
everybody.
almost everybody basically.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Tesla comes in a little bit late and says, hey guys, we're 80% of the way there, and that's
Yeah.
measurable. That's measurable. I mean that it's not just we're working on it.
Mhm.
We're 80% of the way
Well,
there, meaning we
it's
are already
interesting
there.
because the Tesla system, when I first heard about what they had done with their what's he calling it, autopilot. When I first heard about what he had done with it, I immediately thought of Chrysler, because
Yes.
I rode in the Chrysler 200, and it will keep you within the lanes. It will stop and go in traffic, so it will literally stop all the way, stop, and then start going again. It has, it's part of the active cruise control. They just
Right.
sort of took active cruise control and then expanded it to allow the car to stop all the way and start back up again. Um, and it will, if you set the cruise control and the speed limit changes, it will know that through the GPS system, right? If you have
Yeah.
the nav system, which you have to have this in the car, it will know that the speed limit changed, and it will change your cruise control. It will tell you that it wants to change it,
But you
right?
see, the good point you're
So,
making right here is the difference between a Detroit company and a Californian company. Because in California, things change so quickly. New streets are
mhm,
built, signs change all the time. You can't rely on GPS. That's why your maps, your Google Maps,
mhm.
Google Maps, Apple Maps are worthless most of the time because they insist you take the highway in the middle of the afternoon when it's jam packed. So this is where Tesla comes in and says it's ridiculous. We need to have visual recognition. Now, of course, ideally you want to tie this with GPS, but it's brilliant at every level.
Right. Well, it's interesting because the only other company I can think of that is taking a visual approach to a sort of autonomous driving is Subaru with their I forget what they call it, but the something
Yes.
eyes. But that's
Yes.
that's what that's what runs their active cruise control, and in my experience, it works a lot better than the radar-based ones.
Absolutely, and
Uh,
it's funny you should mention Subaru because it's one of my favorite brand companies. I love these guys. They have one of the best cars out there. It is sturdy. It works
mhm.
really well. They don't advertise. People who know Subarus will always buy Subarus. I'll never buy a Toyota because that's a car you can drive 350,000 miles and never have to worry about anything. And yet they come out with things like that. And Subaru, by the way, is on the rebound, so it's really great to see that happening. So I think in many ways, Tesla could become the next Subaru. They don't need to talk that much. People know who they are and they make big splashes in the
Well,
industry.
and just to stay on the Subaru subject for a moment, I had the 2015 Subaru Legacy as a test vehicle at the first part of the month, the first of the month, and that car is leaps and bounds beyond the Legacy of 4 years ago, 3 years ago.
Yes,
It's a completely different vehicle. It is so refined. It's amazing, and that car should be flying off dealership lots. Should be selling like hotcakes because
yeah,
this new generation is so much different and so much better than most
yes,
of what the competition is bringing out in their mid-size sedans. Just such a great car in every way.
and
Uh,
that's a
and
perfect segue you're making back to
yeah,
Tesla. That's I think that's the beauty of what's happening right now, and we'll tie it back to the event. Is unfortunately our society and our societies in general, because even in Europe to a great extent, depend on marketing. Why do you buy a Toyota when a Subaru is actually much better quality, much tougher, does not have as many recalls and everything? And this is exactly what Tesla was doing. Tesla doesn't advertise. Obviously, they don't advertise, but once in a while they just do that kind of thing, come out with a great product, and then they let the product speak for themselves. It's brilliant.
well,
This is what Apple was doing, but Apple is advertising.
right. One of the things though that I would like to kind of point out though is one of the reasons I think that a lot of the Tesla fans were a little bit disappointed in this event was if you look at the figures for the Model S, if you look at this year's sales over the whole year, the numbers I have go to June. So if you're looking, or July, so if you look at the first half of this year, of the sales of the Tesla globally, it's falling. The Model S is not gaining in sales, it's dropping in sales. And to me, that's a very good indication that Tesla really needs to do something else. And the Teslarati will point to the Model X as the next big thing, but I don't think it is. I think that's the wrong direction. And we could do an entire podcast about this, and we probably should, because um, I think that Tesla is going to miss the boat if they don't get a small, cheap car very quickly,
You're right.
because their number one fear right now should be Nissan,
Yes.
and I don't see them acting like they're worried about that. Because I think that by the time the Model 3 comes out, which it's slated for 2016, I'll be kind of surprised if we actually see it in
Yeah, which
2016.
mean 2017.
Yeah, and it's slated for that, and by that point, I think it's going to be too little, too late. I think they're going to have
So
missed the mark, and they're going to be in the same situation
yeah,
Honda was with the Insight,
exactly.
where
Yeah,
they had a
that's a
great
very good point.
car, and it's an awesome hybrid or awesome car, exceedingly fuel efficient, and it's the Betamax of vehicles. It's got
Yes.
everything that you could want, but somebody else came out with something that sold better, and now
You
nobody
know,
remembers the first one.
that's a really good point. I think the biggest problem Tesla faces right now, and you've said it, is the Model X is going to be a great car. It's going to sell really well. There's no doubt about that. But it's not going to be that important for the car. The biggest problem Tesla faces right now is marketing and advertising.
Mhm.
I think, right? Because look at all the products out there. Look at all the cars out there. They're not the best cars, but they're the cars that have the most advertising, marketing might behind. And I
Well,
think at one point
that's
or
mostly
another,
true, but honestly, I don't think that that's their issue. I think Tesla's
well, hold
real
on.
issue is that they are they're building themselves up too much as a luxury maker. And when they try to come out with a cheap car, that's going to shoot them right in the foot. People are going to look at the car and
Yeah.
they're either going to expect this $30,000 battery car to be very luxurious like the Model S, or they're going to wonder why they didn't, if it, because it's so cheap, why didn't they come out with this first, kind of a thing. Whereas you're
And
going to
that's, yeah,
have
but
a
that's the whole
company like
thing. It's,
Nissan that has all the resources in the world. They're going to have already
yeah,
made, I mean, they've
but
already made the Leaf the car, right? The
that's the
Leaf
whole
is
point. That's the
almost
whole point. I think
ubiquitous with
Tesla
electric
right
car now.
now, yeah, Tesla right now is is in between a hard place. I mean, they're sitting on the glory and the laurel leaves of their Model S, and they're obviously making it better, which is normal, which is what everybody expects. It's using the platform of the Model X. It's testing it out. Then it rolls out the Model X. But in the meantime, they can't get that Generation 3 out there in time at the price target that they want to without doing that gigafactory, those gigafactories, because now we're talking about at least 2 or 3. So they're really stuck in between. And this is where I still think, unfortunately, as much as I hate it, they're going to have to do some marketing and some really smart marketing, which I think it's going to have to happen through some sort of advertising, one way or the other.
Well,
I mean, no matter
I
how.
would say that what they need to do is they need to kind of rebrand themselves a little bit.
Well, and
I
that's
don't know that
exactly it.
they
How
have
do
to
you
do
go?
advertising or real
Yeah,
marketing for that. I think they just need to stop pushing high technology and the luxury
the
fittings
luxury
and all
segment. But
that
this
other
is
stuff.
what we
They
were
need to kind
talking
of push it
about.
another
Yeah, this
direction.
is what we were
And
talking about.
to talk about your point before, sorry I'm interrupting, but to talk about your point before, I honestly don't believe the Model X is going to sell well. I think it will do very well in the first few months, and then it will drop off.
I agree
Um,
with the Model X. It's a fringe
because I
model.
don't think it's a segment that people are
No,
really wanting to buy.
no, it's going to be a fringe model. It's going to be a fringe segment, and people who buy SUVs or crossovers. I mean, yeah, it's the fad in the USA, but that's really mostly in the USA, big cities. And then I guess as soon as you get out where it's really rugged, then you need a pickup truck or you need something a little bit beefier. And I don't think an EV is going to really cut it out there. Um,
Honest,
I think.
to talk to that point, I would say that if they really wanted the Model X to sell well, they would build it to be the same as, say, the new what are they calling it, the new Fiat and the new Jeep Renegade. They would aim
Right.
for that size segment, and
But
I
I
don't
think
see them doing that. They're going bigger
no,
than
it's going to be closer to a Murano
yeah.
or one of
It's
the
going to
Nissan
be
crossovers.
closer to the
And it's a
Porsche
shame, you know
Cayenne.
why? Because that's a tough car, and they could really make it into a durable. But you know what? There'll be a tuner out there who's going to make it an off-road car, and that should be fine and everything. But you're right. That's one thing that we did talk about a few weeks ago is how will Tesla move away from a luxury car maker to an affordable, quote unquote, affordable $35,000 car maker. And you know what? If you think about it, who does that? The Europeans do that. Whether
Uh-huh.
you look at Audi, BMW, most of the high-end guys, they have entry-level cars, and they're pretty cheap cars,
Yeah, but I'll
affordable
be
cars.
honest with you. I've driven the Audi A3 and I was extremely unimpressed. I had
Yeah, the A3,
very
the
little that I
A3,
liked
the
about
only
that
A3 that you want to drive is the TDI. The only A3 you want to drive is the TDI. But it's true.
car.
And
Yeah.
you know why? Also because Audi is milking that platform a lot.
Oh yeah. Oh
It's
yeah.
it's been around forever. It hasn't been really updated. But that's Audi. You know, Audi comes out with one great car every 4, 5, 6 years, and then after that they just milk it. So fine. But I think they will turn their attention to how these guys do it out there, and because you know it doesn't really happen over here. If you think about it, over here you have segmented and you have a segmented automotive industry. GM does what it does, Chrysler does what it does, Ford does what it does, and then they drill
Mhm.
down into simple segments. Whereas in Europe, BMW hits all the segments, Audi hits all the segments, Peugeot hits all the segments. All of them hit all the segments, and that's that fundamental difference between U.S. car makers and European car makers. So I think, you know, if they understand that, that's what they will figure out how to do. But I still think it's going to have to happen through advertising. There's no way you can reach out these people who want to buy a $30,000 car if you're, you know, come from a standpoint of $80,000 or $120,000. Albeit, maybe I should probably rephrase that a little bit because, you know, a lot of these people are looking at the Model S wishing they would have it. So buying the Model 3, or the Model 3, I guess, will be that way of accessing that Model S without
Mhm.
buying it. It's sort of like, you know, buying a, what is it, the Mercedes C 300 instead of getting an AMG, well, you get a C 300. So
Yeah.
pretty sure it's going to be along those lines.
Kind of like for muscle car buyers, since I know we have a few in the audience. Uh, So kind of like buying the Dodge Challenger in
Ah,
the 6.
yeah.
It still looks like a Challenger. Everybody knows it's a Challenger. Blah blah blah. But you're never going to win a race.
Yeah. Oh, good Lord, yes. So
Anyway,
I wanted to go back a little bit about the event and especially
yeah,
about the
we should bring it around full circle again and come
yeah.
back to the event. I think we've both agreed that the people there were either there because it was sort of like the Beatlemania of 2014, or they were there and they were going, "Why did I show up?" That's
Yeah, so there's
kind of what.
you're right. There were two things that really impressed me. Is I actually went to a Beatlemania concert as a kid, which was really funny, and of course I have a
He's
few Apple
not
computers,
old.
so I understand Apple
Nicholas
Mania
isn't
too.
old.
And now, lo and behold, we have Teslamania. We really do have Teslamania. I have a friend who has a Roadster for his wife, and he has a Model S for himself, and that's perfect. And actually, two friends who have that. And one of them is actually using solar panels to charge the cars during the day. But the thing that really struck me as strange, to say the least, is you and I know the limit of technology right now. You and I know how far EVs can go, and they
Hmm.
can't go that far just yet. 300 miles is pretty darn good for a car, especially if you consider a 691 horsepower car. Usually, range does not come into your computation, right? When I buy a Porsche, I'm not going to care about the freaking range, right?
Right.
It's
If I buy a Challenger shaker, I
yeah.
expect that when I fill the
Does
tank,
anybody know the
I'm
range
going
on
to
a
drive it
on a
like I
Ford
stole it.
Mustang? Does anybody know
Yeah.
the range on any of these cars? No, of course. Nobody ever talks about that.
I
So
can.
this is
Well,
actually the
here's an
beauty.
example, just
But
really quick. I can tell you that from experience now that a 2015 Corvette Stingray, when you drive it like it's meant to be driven, not the way the EPA wants you to drive it, when you drive that car the way it's meant to be driven, you will get about 100 and some miles out of the tank.
of course,
There
yeah,
you go.
and that's exactly it. And by the way, same thing with the dual motor. I'm sure you probably even get less than that.
Yes.
But the beauty is they were able to squeeze 10 more miles from the base version. And so what I thought was really impressive was what people were asking for, where we're demanding. And even if you follow the news today and the comments on most of these articles, is people are mad at Tesla because they didn't push a Model S that had better range. But the
Hmm.
real question is, well, technologically, we can't do that. We're pretty much almost at the maximum of what these lithium batteries are giving us right now. We
Hmm.
know Tesla is working on higher density batteries, and we know that's going to happen at one point or another. They're going to have 350 miles, 400 miles. It's
Yeah,
very
if
much
Tesla
like the
doesn't come
high-speed
up with it,
trains in
somebody
Europe. In
else.
the beginning, they run at 260 kilometers, then they finally hit the 300,
Hmm.
350, so on and so forth. So give it time; it will happen. But I thought it was interesting that in a space of about a year or two, they were demanding, much high. I mean, I heard ranged like 500 miles, which I thought, wow, now we're going back to what we used to ask for 5 years ago, the magic 500-mile barrier range. Which, by the way, I don't know of many. Actually, I probably know of one or two cars who can actually do that these days with a gasoline engine. So that was very interesting.
Yeah, with a gasoline engine, I couldn't name one, but I could name several with diesel engines that can do that.
Well, and
Um,
hybrids. That's what I
Passat
meant by that.
TDI, you could easily do it.
And
Um,
hybrids too. I mean, a lot of
yeah,
hybrids you can do
yeah,
500 miles.
maybe.
So yeah, yeah, yeah.
The
But
problem with hybrids is they're usually a naturally aspirated engine, and so when you climb a hill, when you get at altitude, or uh, when the weather's cold or too hot or whatever, that totally changes the performance of the engine.
yeah, and
Will
Atkinson engines are
greatly
not
affect that range.
not yeah. I think it was very interesting that I think Tesla has a lot more challenges that we're, that what we think, and I'm sure we'll hear about that on Seeking Alpha and Autoblog Green and all these things. We'll hear more about these challenges as they come up to
Probably
light.
Teslarati.
And Tesla Ready, but well, Tesla Ready, we're always leading the lead here. We're in front of everybody, right? No, it's true, and I totally agree with
Yeah.
that. But I think that the challenges are only becoming more and more interesting, and there couldn't be a better person than Elon Musk at the head of these challenges because he does have a good head on his shoulder, both technologically and as a futurist. He's a visioneer, so I think it's going to be interesting. But you're right. I don't know how the Model X is going to help. and they may be working on something else right now. Which, by the way, I should also mention that in December, the first swappable station for the Tesla Model S is going to come online. So it's right around here in
Okay.
California. I'm hoping to actually go out there and film it, but that should be interesting. That's just a
I
little
think if
blip
they
on the
did
radar.
those on a limited scale, if they just put a few of them here and there where they're going to be most
Yeah.
useful, that it's not a bad idea. It's a good idea.
The thing is
And
that well, that
given the
it's more
technology, you might.
expensive than building a supercharger. That's the thing.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. That's why I think if it's limited, if it's use, you put
I
in the
think.
areas where the Model S is most ubiquitous, then
Well,
it's
maybe
fine.
not
It's
so much. I
probably
was
a fine
thinking
idea.
more in terms of fleet. Fleet owners would actually get a much
Hmm.
much more bang out of their bucks for that.
Right. And that brings us to one more thing, which is the constant rumors that Tesla's going to be building a pickup truck. And I have talked about this before. I wrote about this on Teslarati, in
Yes.
fact.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what I think. I think if Tesla is going to build a pickup truck, it is mostly going to be a fleet vehicle. It's
Yes.
going to obviously be a half ton. It's not going to be bigger than that. It will be a fleet vehicle,
Yes.
and it will have roughly the capabilities of, a Ford F-150, Ram 1500, Silverado 1500, that sort of thing. So it will have about 10,000 pounds in payload. It will have about 10 to 12,000 pounds in towing. That's basically what a half ton is today, right?
That
Half
makes
ton is
sense.
such an
Yeah.
outdated old terminology for these trucks because they're so well beyond a half ton now. But that's
Yeah.
that's the point. It will be roughly in those capabilities. Now the question is, the reason I think it will mainly be a fleet vehicle is because one, in order to have those capabilities and the kind of range that is expected of a Tesla, it's going to be an extremely expensive vehicle.
Yes.
Second, it's going to be very limited use because as soon as you hook a trailer to that truck, that
Boom.
mileage, that range expectation is gone. You
Yep.
no longer have 200 miles or 150 miles or 180 miles or whatever. You can take that number and you can cut it in half or more.
No
And that's
more.
going to be more realistic. So
Yeah.
you're going to, if you have a 200-mile truck and you hitch up a 10,000-pound trailer, you might have 80 miles out of it now.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
that's why fleets, and then that brings us into that battery swapping, because for a fleet
Yeah.
that uses this sort of truck, and then you can assume that the bed of the truck isn't always going to be a pickup. There'll be delivery and walk-through vans, like UPS style, that sort of thing. There'll be all that kind of stuff going with it, as an option. Like you can buy
Yeah.
a chassis vehicle is what they call it, which is a truck that doesn't have a
Yeah.
bed, and put whatever you want on it. I can see Tesla selling them like that because that would maximize your sales for that vehicle.
The only
But I
problem
don't
is
see them doing this anytime
no,
soon
no,
because it's
no,
not
because
that big of a market.
Tesla does one thing very well is they're very smart about how they go forward. Whatever money they're making right now, it's purely reinvested in the company and in their own proprietary technology, and that's the best way to do it. Opening a whole fleet segment would mean lots of resources and money, which they don't have to spare at the time. They have the money, but they don't have to spare at the time. So
Hmm.
that's why I think that the roadmap is interesting with the Model X and the Model 3. How they're going to do it, that's just incredible because the
Now,
Gigafactory is in the way.
this may bring us to something I haven't thought of with the Model X. It's a three-row, right? Won't it have a third
It's a
row?
three-row, yes.
So that could be sold with almost no modification. That could be sold as a fleet vehicle,
Of course,
for
guess
hauling people.
and taxis. I mean, it's the best car ever. Right now, is it in Holland right now?
Yeah,
Bunch of
honestly, I
Model
don't
X
see it
are
selling as
sold
a taxi.
as taxis, but a Model X would actually be a good taxi car.
Not
It's
not
big
with those
enough.
gull wings. They would have to change the doors if they're going to do that.
No, why not? I think it's great. I think it's great. Not only that, but a lot of people would want to have that.
those seagull style gull wing doors. One, they're not going to put up with with heavy use, and two, I don't know how much space they're going to require when the car's parked. A good
Well, that's the whole thing.
taxi.
It doesn't require a lot of space. I mean,
Okay.
supposedly when I saw the doors
I've
open.
seen
First of
how
all,
they
they're not going to
open
scratch
and they
anything
fold up the
around, but
stuff. I just
but
I just don't think that it's.
the only
I
problem
would
they'll
like to see
have.
those work
The
I would
the
like
only
to see
problem they'll
those
have
used
is
a
in
thousand times in a
yeah,
day, and it
yeah,
would
yeah,
have.
yeah. But you know what? I mean, actually, no.
There's a reason that
Tesla's
prototypes always have gull wings and then productions
yeah,
don't.
no, but I mean, Tesla is. If I know one thing about Tesla, if we know one thing about Tesla, is that they're pretty sturdy cars, and
Mhm.
really there haven't been a lot of wear and tear on these cars. My biggest issue with those wings are in the European parking lots. They're low ceiling, so I don't know how that's gonna work. And plus, a lot of people have old-fashioned garages too. So you're right. I think that no, I think they'll have a
And then
problem. I
what
don't
does
think the wear and tear is going to
what
be
does
the
the
issue.
door do when it's raining on you? Right. Anyway, that's different.
It's a nice umbrella.
Yeah, but I'm thinking
Alrighty.
about the gutter effect because of the way it folds.
Yeah, 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 and that's
Uh,
why. Well, I
so
mean, I'm sure Hans,
anyway,
Hans did a great job. I'm sure it's
it can't,
nicely,
on the other hand,
done
it
there.
can't be any worse than Toyota's Forerunner lame putting the controls right on the windowsill
Oh yeah,
so that
yeah.
they can
Why
get
did
rained on
they
and
do
short
that? I
out.
mean, my gosh, that was really big in the '90s. Really, are you silly or what? People always make fun of my 1989 Alfa Romeo Milano, and they started that back in '82. All the controls were in the center, on top, and in the bottom. Never on the
Mhm.
doors, obviously. Well, duh. First of all, you don't want to have heavy doors. Anyway, that's a whole new
Well,
topic. But I think
Toyota, they're discontinuing it now, but the ISF has everything on the door, but it's at such a sharp angle because they had to maximize the space. Otherwise,
of course,
even the shortest of people couldn't climb into the car and sit down and have any knee room. That
yeah.
you have to twist your arm just to use the window controls. And at that point, I was looking at the car going, why don't you just put these on the center console? You know,
Yeah. Well, that's
it's just, anyway.
that's one company that has a lot of work to do in the next few
Well,
years or so in
I'll
front of
tell
them.
you,
So,
I had looked forward to that car for
yeah.
months. And then
Yeah.
when they finally brought it to me, at that point I had driven the Corvette Stingray, and the
Oh,
ISF
ouch.
seems so outdated and
Yeah.
so horribly built, even though the performance numbers are almost identical.
Yeah, but you
It
know that
was
that's the
it was
problem with
just
these
not.
companies that chase after being number one manufacturer is then they forgot about the most important part. Make the car fun to drive. Hello.
Yeah, because
Anyway, that's a
I'll tell
totally
you,
different
as a
topic.
middle-aged guy, I do happen to still have all my hair, but as a middle-aged guy, and
And
it's on my
teeth.
head, amazingly. But as a middle-aged guy who is the perfect demographic for the Corvette, I can honestly say that I cannot name a European car in the price point that I would buy over that Corvette.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is such a well-made car,
Oh,
and
it's
it
the
is
best bang for
so
your buck.
awesome for what
Yeah,
it is.
technologically, it's fantastic. I
And
totally
then, of
agree.
course, if you look, by the way, if you go to the Car News Cafe Facebook page, you will find a graphic that shows that the Corvette Stingray is a family vehicle.
There you go. Now you have to go out there and go to carnewscafe.com and figure it out for yourself.
Find out what I'm talking
So
about. All right,
I think we
I think
pretty
we
much
beat the
covered
Tesla drum to
everything.
death, haven't we?
All in all, I'd like to just recap that it was a very strange event because one thing I didn't mention is we actually waited a long time in line, and this time around I decided not to get my media credentials because last time, honestly, the media credentials didn't give me much, but a little stage to the right, and the view wasn't even good. This time it was way behind on top, so I would have needed a telescopic lens. I was actually much better in the middle of the crowd, mingling with people and listening to what they had to say. It felt like, and again, I'll say it again, we had Beatlemania, we had Applemania, now we have Teslamania. And it was interesting because it was a
You left
very
out Metal Mania
say
and
what?
Wrestle. You left out Metal Mania and WrestleMania.
Jeez Louise,
Those
no,
were in the
that's
middle
just
there.
too niche for me there. I'm talking about mainstream stuff. But it was interesting because it really felt like a Hollywood kind of show. It was really well designed, well staged, and I thought technologically it was amazing because if you look at it, the dual motor, and maybe here's the problem. Maybe we shouldn't call it the dual motor. Maybe we should call it the AT Model S, the autopilot Model S instead of the dual motor, because that took away from the technological advances of the Model S into the just horsepower, sheer performance part of it. So it gave you that crowd of teary eyes. Wow, anything they do is wonderful, and then the much more astute. I wish they would have given us more. So that's what we walked away from with. Then that was pretty interesting.
Okay, pretty good synopsis there. Uh, Well, I think we're done for today. This has been Aaron from carnewscafe.com. And as usual, if you have any complaints or if you think either one of us is a moron, you can email moron at
At forgetit.com.
we don't give an f.com. No, you can contact either one of us, Aaron at carnewscafe.com or Nicholas, that's with no H, Nicolas at carnewscafe.com. And you can tell us what you think, or you can comment on wherever you've seen this podcast, either on our YouTube or on our website. So that's it.
Or iTunes, right?
For carnewscafe.com and Teslarati, this has been Aaron.
Yes, and aren't we on iTunes too? I think we're on iTunes.
Oh yeah, we're on iTunes.
Anyway, this is Nicholas.
Don't comment there.
No.
Just leave us high ratings.
No, just high ratings only, please. Yeah, please comments directly on Teslarati or Car News Cafe. You know why? It means a lot to us. It means that you're reading the website. It means that we come up in the ratings, and that's very, very important to us. Not on YouTube, not on iTunes. We love these guys, but they're doing well financially. We still foot all the bills ourselves. Again, this is Nicholas Art, and I'm signing off for Teslarati and Car News Cafe. And yes, it's Nicholas without an H. And I can't believe somebody asked me once, what do you mean? NICOLAS at Car News Cafe. And by the way, also Nicholas at Teslarati.com. Hope you guys enjoyed this this brief comment on the event, and we hope to hear your feedback.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.